Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let's do it. Ah, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another program. We are going to be talking about watches. My name is Skylar Santana, and on this channel, we talk about all things watch related. And what I wanted to talk to you guys about today, the new Seiko release, because here's the deal. Whenever Seiko comes out with a new release, especially when it comes to the 5KX line, it stirs the pot. And I want to have a conversation with you guys about it and see how you guys feel. Hopefully, some people jump on. We just started the live, so we'll give them a chance to do so. And in the meantime, what we'll do is we'll go over this release and talk about what we can expect in June for this new 5KX line. Welcome to the channel. Yeah, so whenever Seiko does anything for the 5KX line, we always circle back to the original SKX 007 and 009. By the way, that's what's on my wrist. Let me show you guys about it. I didn't set the time because technically I'm cheating. That's not the watch that I had on today. However, it's relative to the conversation. Therefore, that's why I have it on. SKX 009. That's the one that I went for early on in my collecting. It was already discontinued at the time, and I'm glad that I grabbed it because it has a lot of nostalgia. It is an iconic watch. We don't have something directly replacing it from that line initially just yet. So I was happy that I pulled the trigger on it. And here's the deal. When I first started collecting watches, that's what I did. I went after watches that were iconic because I didn't feel confident in my own choices. I wanted to see what other enthusiasts were putting into their collection. And I felt like if something was so well talked about amongst many groups, it must be at least a decent watch. And at that point, I was just trying to risk something. So that's how I moved. And luckily enough, at the time, the SKX 009 and 007 was talked about heavily, especially when it got discontinued and everybody was waiting to see what was going to come out next. Unfortunately, Seiko hasn't outdone the original SKX. And I think that that's what the big gripe is about. That's going to be part of the conversation. We're going to go through what the new line is coming for the 5KX is what people like to call it. It's really the Seiko 5 Sport Watch. But since it's been replaced, the specification has ran short. And I'm going to try to do my best not to get into the conversation about the expectations of enthusiasts until the very end. But I want to jump into exactly what we can expect from this lineup. Let me make sure we are good. On the comments is good. I'm trying this new beta thing that shows the comments on stage. I'm not sure how that's going to work out, but we're going to find out eventually. So let me also switch gears. Oh, before we start, ladies and gentlemen, I want to do a special shout out to my man, White Salmon. Let's do this. Hang on. Let's switch gears. So this is the gentleman on Watch Crunch. His name is White Salmon. Okay. And what this guy likes to do is he likes to create watch rolls. And I wanted to share this with you guys because I don't like to keep something for myself when I find something spectacular. I low-key want to do that because then I could be the only one. He hand makes these watch rolls, man. And it started off with this single roll that he sent to me. Shout out White Salmon. It's all handmade. The quality of leather that you get on here is super, super thick. Everything is well, nicely made, handmade stuff that he's got up here. Wristful Ignorance in the building. David's in the building. What's going on? So I wanted to do a shout out to this gentleman in case you guys are on the market and you're looking for something that's super high quality. He's on Watch Crunch. It's how I met him. This is why I love doing what I do. We make these connections through these communities, through these lives, through the content. And that's what makes everything worth the while for that conversation. Now, this is a watch roll that he sent me very early on. I then graduated to the big boy. What do you mean by big boy? I'll show you. I'm glad you asked. This is a 12 slaughter handmade leather from that gentleman. So if you're interested and you want to know some specifications for it, all I can tell you, and I'll be completely transparent. I did a trade for this. I gave him a watch. He gave me this watch roll, and I'm super appreciative of it. So that's why I wanted to shout him out. But more so because I was impressed by the quality that came forth with this. So imagine pulling up to a watch show and you have a 12 slaughter and it takes up a good significant portion of the table, right? You could put all your watches over here. What's nice is he includes these little dividers in each and every one of them to protect the back of the case of the watch. Very nice touch. All have his WS to represent who he is and his company and everything else. Handmade stuff. You guys know what I'm going to say about the leather. It's supple. But super nice, man. This is a flex. I low-key have a paranoia. Like, just the idea of putting 12 watches in there and leaving my home makes me afraid. But I think that one day it'll probably happen to one of the meetups where I want to fill that in with web-based brands and show the community and the meetup the watches that I have on me. So that'll happen one day. And it's nice because it's a large watch roll, and it also allows you to have that surface area to put your watches on it. Eric Mack is in the building. What's going on, David? I love the handmade leather stuff. Yes, sir. I overpaid like a MF when I got my holster. That's a sick watch roll. Dude, it is heavy duty, and it's got like 4 buttons, okay? Extra security. And I'll tell you what, man, even the single one, and I don't know if this is considered a single, it has 2 slots. I like to put the little clothy there and then a watch because I think 2 watches is a little overloaded. But when I tell you guys the quality is there on these, I'm not selling it for him. I just have to share something when I find something like this. So do with it what you will, if you will. Anyway, let's get into the topic at hand that we came here to talk about. Let's switch gears and pull that up on screen. And that's the 5KX and the new models that they're coming out very soon in the next month before us. And I'm basically stalling because I'm looking for the actual website that that I was on. Here it is. So is it this? No, hold on. Hang on. I'm still getting this down. I really need a tech person for this stuff. Hold on. What's going on right now? Okay. Let's try this. At this stage. There we go. So this is what we are talking about. Seiko's coming out with 4 new models. There's supposedly supposed to be an upgrade, but let's talk about it. 4 new models, right? SRPL 83, the 85, the 87, and the 89. Yes? And I don't like this. I like to have me proportional. Hang on one second. There we go. You guys came to see my beautiful face. No cap. So the black and the blue are going to come on a bracelet. Now, the actual specifications to the watches are going to remain the same when it comes to this new Seiko lineup, but just for entertainment purposes, it's going to be 42.5 diameter, 13.9 thickness, 46 lug to lug, and it's going to have a curved hardlex crystal with, of course, the famous Seiko Lumi Bright. You're going to get a unidirectional rotating bezel with a glossy glass insert and a 60-minute scale. Push-pull crown. They're sticking to that push-pull crown. We'll talk about that. Screwed in case pack with a see-through crystal, 100 meters of water resistance, which is what people have usually the issue with. The caliber is going to be the 4R36, which is basically like saying an NH35 or an NH36. The difference is that the 4R36 is the in-house movement for Seiko. That's the only difference for it. Some branding on there. I tried to look into it a little bit to see if there's any significant difference in the actual movement of the two. And from what I saw, one website was telling me that there's 1 gem of a difference going more towards that 4R36. Another one said that they're even on it. So I think we're splitting hairs. It really doesn't matter. We're talking about 24 joules, 3 hertz frequency, 41 hours of power reserve, hacking, hand winding, and date function. Now, let's stop there. When it comes to the original SKX 009 and 007, and I showed you guys the one on wrist, right? I think I did. Yeah, that's the one that I have. I modded the bezel and the bezel insert because you guys know I'm a degenerate for it. I will catch up on chat. Give me a moment. Let's get through this. If you're talking about the original SKX, then there's already an upgrade when it comes to the movement itself. And that's something that's been the case the second you got the hacking, hand winding, and everything else of the like. Yes? So that's that. However, I think where people get hung up on is the fact that there's 100 meters, it's not screwed down, And that's where they have this problem with. And then once that ball gets rolling, they're like, oh, by the way, why don't you do sapphire instead of your hardlex? Oh, by the way, why don't you give us a on the fly adjust? And then it goes on and on. We're going to talk about that because I want guys to roll in. I see a couple people are getting into the chat. I want to hear what you guys have to say about this subject. It is something that resurfaces. So the bracelet and the silicone strap. So the blue and black dial are both going to get bracelets. Now, Seiko has mentioned that they're going to do an improvement. There's going to be more rounded off finishes for the bracelet itself. We'll get into that as well. Silicone straps for the 87, which is the yellow dial, and the 89, which is the orange dial. Let me change the picture so you guys don't get aesthetically bored. Here's some more pictures for you guys. We'll scroll down. Now, I'm getting this off of the website of Monochrome Watches in case you guys are wondering, and I do have that in the description if you want to, do the full read yourself. Fantastic. It's where I found everything. So the availability on this is going to be on June 2025, the next month ahead of us. It's going to be part of their permanent collection. Price point. So the price point is going to be 400 euros for the silicone strap, which is 450 USD, and 440 euro for the bracelet versions, which is the black and the blue, which is effectively 496. Let's call it 500 for US. So now what's supposed to replace the SKX model is going up in price because I saw on their website that there are a few models floating around the $300 range, which is another reason why people have a problem with it. To be fair, there are some upgrades. We're going to talk about that next. Let me see you guys in chat. Make sure you guys are chilling. Ristful Ignorance. Noctua Watches is in the building. My man JP, what's going on, bro? I didn't text you back. I will text you back momentarily when I'm done with this live. Let's continue. Robert Wood has blessed us with his presence. I call him Mr. Wood. Pause. So let's go on to what we're talking about. So the changes is what we want to know about. And this is where the aggro happens. This is where the watch enthusiast, the watch nerd, let's change photos so you guys don't get bored. That's a nice colorway. We'll get into that. The changes is where watch nerds, enthusiasts, watch wizards, stuff that the muggle is not going to understand, is where we get a little irritated. It's not enough to offset the value for cost, and we'll talk about that. However, they have changed the architect to the specifications. Their case and movement are carried over from the previous references, right? You have that hardlex crystal still on the dial. However, the hardlex crystal it has a bigger opening for the dial itself. Therefore, it's shrinking the actual bezel diameter, thickness, let's say, right? All of the models are now equipped with a glossy glass insert, right? Which is why I want to keep this image up there. I wish I could make it bigger. I'm not too good at this. We'll figure it out eventually. But effectively reducing the actual bezel insert altogether, right? But it does have a glossier look to it, giving it a little bit more depth. So that's one of the things that they changed on it. That's a 60-minute scale printed on the underside, which adds a certain depth and light play to it, right? So that's one of the changes that are solid. It has a different layout on the dial. If you guys don't notice, at the 12 o'clock, we have a kind of split triangle and more of squares and rects going throughout it instead of it being circular. Should I bring up the other one? Yeah, let's bring up the other. Let's bring up the actual models that they have right now. Let's do that. Was it this one? Hang on. I think I already had it up. Yeah, I do. So this would be a good, nope, that's a 34. That is also a 34. Hang tight. Here we go. So this is what it looked like originally, right? So you have that one triangle piece with it coming down and then more circular look to it. How do I get back to that other website? Hang on. Where is it? Hang on. There we go. So, as you guys can see, that's a little different. We got more squares and rects. We have that split triangle at the 12 o'clock. That's another significant difference at that 12 o'clock position and the other indices itself. And then the way it's outlined kind of gives it more of a depth feeling. We all know that Seiko is known for their LumaBright. We can expect it to be very thick at the indices itself. We can expect it to be long lasting as far as their loom goes. So that's a thing that we never need to worry about. But the actual aesthetics, and I think this looks more like, I think it was referenced to King Seikos or something like that, to that kind of layout. So that's a little bit different as well. The hands have been refined. It's losing that needle effect. However, the day, date, and function has been kept as well. So let's also look at that as well, right? So we see the hands on here. We have that needle effect at the very tip versus going back to it now, it's being a little bit more refined. Where's that close-up pic? Here we go. So it's being a little bit more refined. It's not sticking out too. I don't know if that really makes you happy. I don't know if people are going to like that more. They're clearly catering to something and making those changes for a reason. Other than that, everything else is pretty much the same. The black and blue dial will come with a newly designed steel bracelet, as they claimed. And like I said before, it's going to have more rounded off links. So that's another also improvement too. So at this portion of the episode, we will no longer be, what's the word for it? Scripted. We're going to be more off the cuff, because at this point, I want to turn it over to you guys. How do you guys feel about this Seiko release? Is it something, just in general, let me know in the chat. How do you feel about this Seiko release? Is it something that you're numb to? Because here's the deal. I have the 009. I modded the bezel, right? Let me show you guys what that looks like. And I got a bunch of watches right next to me that I'm going to show you guys relative to how I'm going to make this talk go through. But I have the 009 and I modded only the bezel and the bezel insert. The reason why I did that is because internally I didn't want to affect the watch at all, right? I didn't want to open this watch. I didn't want to compromise the original movement. It is nostalgic. There is a lot of value to that. Now let's get to chat before I get too far off. Let me see what you guys are saying. Let's get into it. Let's start from the last comment going up. Random Rob is in the building. Ristful Ignorance. I appreciate you. I like the ballistic trapezoid. Yes, I do like the 12 o'clock. I do like that change. I'll give them that. I will give them that for sure. No screw down crown. No screw down crown on there, boy. That is Robert Wood. That's one of the number one things that people have a problem with. Obviously, when you talk about the 009 and the 007, you had the screw down crown, you had the ISO certified. I have a counter argument. Here's the deal. I'm not a Seiko fanboy. I love Seiko. I respect Seiko, and I have a tremendous amount of respect for Seiko. But let me get through the comments, and I'm going to tell you why I respect Seiko so much, even though they're falling short moving forward for the 5KX, to be fair. 5KX 35 look. Yes. Screw down crown. No screw down crown. No screw down crown. They did not upgrade that. It sounds like the SKX bezel insert. Yes. Yes, Mr. Wood. Okay, you guys are saying everything. Let me make sure I'm wearing my NH36 Power Deep Blue. Deep Blue. I got to get into Deep Blue. I've heard good things. Precision diver, 300 meters. Yes, Pepsi bezel. Yes, actually, I've seen your Watch Crunch post about that. That's a perfect example as another option if people want to get into the actual line for having something similar to looking to the SKX. We'll get into that as well. All right, so I think I'm caught up on chat. If I missed something, re-put it in the chat now. And here's the deal. Here's where I want to go with it. All right, let's talk about who is Seiko catering to. Here are my thoughts. And listen, chime in. Let me know your perspective, because I'm all about perspective at this point. After collecting for 5 years, what I have learned is to not create ideas that you're cemented in. Kind of listen to what the community is saying. Kind of listen to your fellow watch enthusiasts to expand your actual perspective. Fair enough? Fair enough. Here's the deal. Seiko don't care about enthusiasts. And I'm not saying that they don't care about enthusiasts altogether. I'm saying that we are not their priority. We are not their majority. Who they're trying to target, here's who they're trying to target. They're trying to target that person who's getting into watches in their very first early stages and are looking for something that's affordable, reliable, has a name to it, that's not going to break the bank. There are so many more people out there that are in that situation than there is you and I, the watch wizards. That's the reality of it. That's what I think. Let me know if you agree with that. If you disagree with that, I respect it. But I think that it's not like Seiko doesn't have a team that picks up on all the videos and the forums and the Watch Crunch community, Reddit, whatever. If they wanted to, let's not pretend like Seiko doesn't have the capability to do an SKX and fully spec it out. I mean, they could give us the sapphire crystal, they could give us the screw down crown, they could give us the ceramic bezel, they can give us everything. They can even give us the adjustable on the fly quick release. They could do it. They have the capabilities. They don't want to do it. Why? Seiko is humongous, okay? And what I've found myself doing is relating web-based brands, watch enthusiast brands, we don't call them micro, to what Seiko's doing, right? And you can't do that because what web-based brands, watch enthusiast brands, will like to do is one-up their next watch every single time. They'll either come out with something brand new in a line and outdo their specs and outdo their value and outdo everything that they can do after getting feedback from the watch shows, the lemonade stands, getting that feedback and saying, okay, we heard you, we're giving to you. That's their niche. That's their stick. Seiko, on the other hand, is like, I want to sell a watch to everybody, not just a watch enthusiast. You're graduating? I got a watch for you. Oh, you had your first child? I have a watch for you. Oh, you got a promotion? I got a watch for you. Oh, you don't want to spend 10 grand? Okay, I got a watch for you. Oh, you want to spend 10 grand? I got a watch for you. You get where I'm going? So the overhead, the mass size of Seiko, and we're going to also include Grand Seiko in this, right? They have to produce and they have to try to balance the scale of what they can give you for value spec wise and what their profit margin is. I'm not saying that Seiko only care about profits. What I'm saying is they have a big mouth to feed, unlike the guy who's super passionate out in New York and he wants to open his watch company up and he wants to sell a couple of watches and he hires his wife, and you get what I'm saying? So the overhead is a little different, very different. And therefore, the target and the marketing and everything else within it. Now, here's why people get confused. Let me catch up on chat before I get ahead of myself. Oscar never misses a live. He's in the building. My neighbors hate me. What do we got here? Nunez, yes. Also known as Nunez. Corn addict. What's going on? Prospects. Exactly. We're going to get to prospects. That you guys are getting ahead of me. The GMT bezels are, yeah, that's reserved. Okay. Hopefully, StreamYard's doing its job and you guys in the chat is coming up. Oh, I see the chat on screen. Fire. Let's keep going. You guys can see what it's talking about. Where was I? The overhead is different and the kill shot is different for Seiko, right? And here's the deal. To be fair, I think that Seiko's doing a remarkable job locking us in regardless, whether it be you buying their watches directly or you buying anything that has an NH movement on it. You follow what I'm saying? So let's give some examples. So it actually is a watch show and I'm showing watches. How about we do that? A perfect example. We know the Saint Martin, right? Saint Martin, NH35 Skin Diver. Fantastic watch. Finishing is on top of it. Now, here's the deal with Saint Martin. Maybe you agree, maybe you disagree. Let me know. I look at Saint Martin and this watch is actually in my web-based brand watch box. Because at this point, and I know it's different. Stop. Be nice. I know it's different. Chinese mass-produced versus an actual passionate watch. I get it. The thing is, the finishing level, what they're offering, they've got PT5000s, they've got SW200s, they've got Miyotas, not just NH35, the finishing level. And now they're going into more of their own designs, not just with Saint Martin, Zhenghong, right? Zhenghong is another sister company that is going to specialize in web-based brands, and they're doing that. They're cooking right now. They're actually a company that I should have put their website. I forgot. Maybe I'll add it. Here's the deal. NH35 in here, right? So Seiko's selling their movements, making things available for you and I to enjoy. That's a watch enthusiast thing, I think, because here's the deal. If you say that Seiko doesn't enjoy watch enthusiasts, or if you say that Seiko's not catering to a watch enthusiast anymore, they've been doing that when they sell movements. Oh, but they're making a profit. I know, but we got to give flowers where flowers are due. And therefore, if not for the Seiko NH35 line, which their in-house again is the R4, R35, whatever, right? A lot of these brands wouldn't even exist. Rob, I don't know if you're still in the building, but this is a brand that you like, Notice. And this is a fire watch, and this is a fire example, right? This is their pilot, right, version. This is the collaboration they did with Watch Crunch. This has an NH36 in it. Fantastic design. So they were able to not worry so much about the movement and move on to the actual technical specifications. They made the case very thin. In fact, I think that that's pretty much competing with this San Martin in thickness at this point, right? A little different because one's a pilot and one is a diver, actual skin diver, but quick release at the bracelet. Diver extension, you guys know about the Node X clasp. So they're able to focus on a lot of things. And they even proclaim that and we're talking about Notice, with the crown wide open, still 30 meters of water resistance. So instead of focusing about in-house movement and worrying about how am I going to get this, and here's, Seiko's not exclusive to doing this. We have Miyota and we have Swiss-made movements, SW200. I get it, but we're focusing on Seiko here today. And my point is this. Let me drive it home. Seiko deserves flowers and have given to watch enthusiasts a lot more than we care to recognize and remember at times. And therefore, even if not for the web-based brands, if you're a person that's like, yo, I want to build my own watch like I did, this was inspired off of the Alpinist, because at the time the Alpinist was discontinued. And therefore, this was the first watch that I ever built. And yes, that's my last name on the dial. And yes, this is powered by an NH35. Seiko. So if not for Seiko and what they have been giving us plentifully, web-based brands wouldn't exist. Watch modding would be a disaster, or at least more expensive. And therefore, that's why I'll always have love for Seiko, regardless if they botch the 5KX. You know what I mean? What are you guys saying on chat? You saying this guy's out of his mind. Let's see. Where's my mouse? Uh-oh. Did I lose my mouse? I ranted on so long, my mouse went on sleep mode. Patek Philippe with the... I feel like you waited until I was about to read chat to put that in super chat. Appreciate you, bro. What are you talking about right now? What's good, Skylar? Keep up the good work, man. You know me and the Archie universe. And I got to get on there, bro. First and foremost, Patek Philippe, I didn't know. I watched you host a live. You held it down, bro. I got to get on one of those things. Here's the deal. I'm an old man. My bedtime is like 8:30, sometimes sooner than that. So I will one day want to get up there with you and have a rift about it. We'll do that. But fantastic live that you host. I had to give it to you. Into luxury, but recognize the true enthusiast when I see one. Game recognizes game, bro. I appreciate you. And I feel the same way. And then on this channel, I don't talk about luxury too much, but at the end of the day, I definitely don't push it away. I respect all collectors, dude. I'm weird. If you pull up with an Apple Watch at a watch event, I'm still like, yo, come break bread. Come over here. Come over here. Let's talk watches. We're going to get that thing off your wrist. You can sit down at the table, but we got to talk about that Apple Watch situation. Okay? Okay. But everybody's welcome at the end of the day. Yes, I'm in rare form. Where were we? Let's go 100%. We can figure out a time. Yeah, we got to figure it out. I'm an old man. I go to bed early, but we'll figure it out. Weekends, mornings, something like that. If they botch the 5 series, they'll always regroup another year. Seiko has been going. Here's the deal, Corn Addict. Sorry, that's just funny to say out loud. Corn Addict. I love it. Wait, hold on, bro. I'm from New York. You know what I'm saying? When you say you're a corn addict, I love it. I love it. I'm not laughing at you. You're laughing too. I can hear it. Seiko's been going long to make mistakes to hold them back. They got the name, bro. They got the name. Seiko. Here's the thing about Seiko, bro. They have such a history. They put the Swiss on their knees. You understand what I'm saying? There used to be, I forget the name. It always leaves my head. But there used to be a thing that the Swiss used to hold, like these watch conventions, if you will. It was a competition. It was to see who can produce the most accurate watch. Now, I don't know if Grand Seiko was around at that time, but Seiko was a part of that such event. When they first started, they were like in place 70. They were like, get to the back of the bus. A couple of years later, they climbed ranks so fast that the Swiss canceled the events. See what I'm saying? So when it comes to the name and how they've marked themselves in the history, even the fact that what they do with the 5KX at this point and the fact that people are going to still buy Seikos, and I'll show you what I mean. I'm a watch enthusiast, and should I be bent out of shape for what they're doing to the SKX replacements? Sure. Am I? No. Why? Because of what I said before and what they're targeting. However, I've got a Seiko Arnie. I've got an SNJ025. Why? A little niche, because the Predator original one with Arnie, that is my favorite movie of all time. Now, this is a phenomenal watch regardless, right? This is a 200-meter solar-powered watch. You guys know this watch. I don't got to tell you the specs. But my point is this. Even though they do what they do, I'm still going to buy a watch. And Rob, Random Rob is in the chat. If you guys don't know, he's having a mega sale. You probably know who he is at this point if you're watching this. Go over to it if you haven't heard about it. He's going to release, I think, the first batches today. When I say a mega sale, I mean a Mega Man sale. I don't even know how many watches it is. It's probably like 200, 300, 1,000. I don't know, Rob. If you're still in the chat, let him know how many watches you have total. It's going to be a blowout. And if you're serious about putting something in your collection now, I would go over to his channel. I would get on the Discord, which is important, and lock in, because it's going to be a bumpy ride. I bring that up because I'm in the market. Shout out to Travis, Trap Vision 3D. Travis Wiley is who we're talking about, Lightning Striker. I was on his live with him, and he asked me what watches in my sights moving forward, and I said Formex, and that wasn't the truth. I lied to him, to his face, on live. I need a turtle. I don't need a turtle. I want a turtle. I want a turtle. I don't have a turtle. I did have a Tandorio Willard homage, so I did at least get to feel how that would be on my wrist, 7.25-inch wrist, and I liked it. I didn't like the crown guards, though. Nice thing is, the King Seikos don't have that as the Willards do, and that's going to be my next watch, and that's going to bring up my next point. Hold on, let me catch up. Let me catch up on chat. I'm sorry, I'm in rare form today. I appreciate the kind words. Yeah, absolutely, bro. Oscar, and what are you talking about? 4R35 is the NH35. 6R doesn't. Yeah, I got to look into that. I know that the 4R35 and the NH35 are equivalent. Cheers. I was able to jump in and listen a bit on my way to work. Yeah, man, no problem. I appreciate you stopping by, bro. I did shout out your watch rolls. I think that's the man. Yeah, that is the man in question that we were talking about, the watch roll earlier. So check him out on Watch Crunch. Luxury is a state of finances at Patel Philippe. Even a $5 Casio is luxury. That's a fact, dude. That's a fact. This, by the way, I always double wrist. F91W, that's a luxury. Why? Because I don't eat F91Ws. F91Ws don't shelter me. So perspective is key, dude. And no matter what your bandwidth is, literally, these things are all luxury at the end of the day, and we have to treat it accordingly. I like to stay humble. Thank you for pulling my roots up. And I do agree with you. Nachtua watches. By the way, I was going to show your watch because it's relative, because that has the NH38 when it comes to the lume dial being a actual no-go state. And then on your black dial, you have an NH36. What, you know what I mean? I'll get into it. I was going to show your watch, but wifey has it right now because she stole it. Just saying. Where was I? Let's bring up the screen that I want to show you guys. Did I open up a second one? I didn't open a second one up. That's going to be a problem. Hang on. Bear with me, ladies and gentlemen. Bear with me, because I want to show you guys where I would go. That's the question, right? That's the next thing that somebody's going to say. All products, I guess. Help me out over here, Seiko. I guess the next thing that somebody's going to say is like, okay, cool. So if not the 5KX Skylar Santana, let's say you're a new watch enthusiast. You finally understand the romanticism of a mechanical watch. By the way, if you fall in love with a mechanical watch, you have just entered the realm of being a watch enthusiast. Technically dead technology. Can I say that without being canceled? It's dead technology. But at the same time, that's what makes it nostalgic and magical, because at the end of the day, actually a watchmaker said it the best. They said that other than a watch in its complicated mechanicalness, didn't say that, but other than that, outside of that, what other thing do we have that needs less of a human touch? Now, granted, automatic movements are powered by our wrist, but the point is that an automatic watch runs for X amount of years without you having to touch it until you need that service. That's a good point, and I think that's part of the magic. And once you get that, you're locked in. So I think we have to go to Prospecs to stay on par, and I'll show you guys where you should go if you are new to watch collecting. Most of you in the chat are not, so bear with me. But I think that this is where you should go. I think you should stop the argument. And here's the deal. Most of the people arguing are super nerds. They're super watch enthusiasts when they talk about the specifications that fell short for the new line, quote unquote, for the 5KX that's coming out. Here's the deal. Prospecs for $595. I would never pay that, because you can go on eBay or Amazon. You can get an ISO certified. Let's prove that by going to the specifications on this website. Technical data. 200 meters, ISO. That is one of the biggest things that people scream and stomp their feet about. The crystal, I believe, is still, sapphire crystal. It even has a sapphire crystal. Guys, what are we getting mad about Seiko for? They gave us what we wanted. It's called a Prospecs. Now, mind you, you might say, yeah, but Skylar, it's not looking like an actual SKX. I'll give you that, but I'll also give you another alternative at the same time. However, if you become a watch enthusiast and specifications become your thing that you want to focus on, then go with a King Turtle, like how I'm going to do. That's my next watch. You know, hopefully wife is not watching this live, but that's the next watch I'm going to go for. It may surface in Rob's sale. Let me see if Rob said anything about his sale too. Maybe he peeled out. Maybe he just blessed me with his presence temporarily. Robert Wood is still here. Let's see what we got. Robert Wood says, and I quote, "When I get the turtle, Skylar, look at getting the J-style bracelet from Long Island Watch for it." Yeah, dude, actually, Robert Wood, I don't know how you have telekinesis. Maybe it comes with age, no disrespect. But that's where I was actually going, because with this turtle, as you can see, this one comes on a rubber and pause. And I want a bracelet, obviously, but it's good to know that Long Island Watch has the actual bracelet J-style, because we can't say Jubilee. What else was I going to say? You know what, though? If it's 20 millimeters, I probably have a bunch of straps, but I'll definitely check out Long Island Watch. And he's actually one of the websites that I'm going to bring up. So thank you for bringing it up. Turtle is fantastic. It is Prospecs. It is ISO certified. It has a sapphire crystal. I mean, if you're mad at the 5KX, just look at that. But Skylar, I don't want that shape. And get the hell out of here. Scram. No, I still got something else for you. Let me catch up. Skylar's the ultimate salesman. Here's the deal, bro. I'm a salesman by day. I'm Batman by night. I guess when I do these things, I can't turn it off. And I'm really not trying to sell it. I'm trying to just make sense of it. But I guess you're not the first person to say that. So I guess it must be true. But I try to sell everything. Oh, by the way, sponsored by Brew. No, it's not sponsored, but shout out to Jonathan. I can't turn it off, dude. But I guess, okay, so I'm not trying to sell, but my brain, when it comes to like, when you do sales for a living, which by the way, I take that as an extreme compliment, because no matter what, we're getting off topic, but we'll get back to it. When it comes to any position, pause, whether it be a boss, whether it be, it doesn't matter what trade you're in, you have to sell yourself at one. Whoa. You have to have, don't sell yourself. You know what I'm saying, man. Stop it. Don't laugh. You have to have salesman skills in whatever you do, even if you're an owner. From top to bottom, an interview is a sales pitch. Yes, you have to sell your capabilities. I don't want to say self again. You have to sell what you're capable of. You have to. So I guess I can't turn it off is what I'm saying. I've been doing sales my entire life. So I'm not selling. I just, I focus on highlights. I focus on key points. I have to be able to narrow down a point and have some stuff behind it to make it make sense, right? My first real watch was a Belova. Fantastic. One for the first automatic and graduation gift. Exactly. Richard, that's what Seiko's looking to do, I think. I think Seiko's looking to say, hey, you're graduating? I got a watch for you. And then, oh, by the way, when you start appreciating other specs, which is relative to what we have on screen right now for this Pro Spec Seiko Turtle, when you start to appreciate, when you say, you know what, hard Lex, and I want ISO, and I want this, I want that, they're like, cool, we got a watch for that. Oh, I heard about solar. Do you have that? Absolutely. Oh, do you have a higher grade movement? So the thing is like Seiko's about good, better, best, and like keep you on that rope, and also make sure that you thirst for one of every one of their lines, and that's proven by the amount of lineup that they have. So that's my point in case, Richard. That's awesome. Bulova is a fantastic place to go. We're talking about Seiko, but at the end of the day, I have a lot of love and respect for Bulova, and I have Bulova in my collection as well. So first off, congratulations to your graduation gift, and congratulations to graduating. Just saying. All right, where we at? Where we at? We all good on chat? If I missed something, I do apologize. I was able to jump in and listen. Okay, I got that. Which turtle we talking about? I think you know that by now. I'm sorry. Balancing, sell yourself. Never be selling. Market your skills. Yeah. That's another thing too. Listen, me going on these lives and being able to communicate to a screen, but basically you guys, it's another skill that I developed, and also is going to help me with my day job. I need to put them on payroll. Dude, if you put me at a show, bro, I need two things. I need you to send me a fat check and send me a flamethrower. And yes, those two things are separate, and we'll get that show going. You know what I mean? We'll literally burn down New York. All right. So anyway, where was I going with this? Where was my point? I want to show you guys some more examples about how Seiko has positively affected a lot of things surrounding us. Before we get the pitchfork, before we get the cocktails, before we sharpen our knife, we have to remember that if not for Seiko, a lot of things won't exist, right? I talk about Venetianico, Rendendore, Aventurina. Fantastic watch. Again, another example like I showed you guys with the Notice. It's all about the build around the movement. This is also another build around the movement. Maybe it's not for you. Maybe you say NH35 over $500. Absurd. But at the same time, at this point, if you look at the R movement from Seiko, which is basically the in-house NH35, they're now approaching that $500 mark. I told you that the bracelet is going to be, $495 USD. Let's round it up. Taxes in New York. Hello. So yeah, that's a thing. That's a thing for sure. I'll show you guys some other things that I personally built off of NH35. This is the Watch Crunch, not collaboration. They didn't officially collaborate. This was the Watch Crunch inspired watch that I built. You guys know about that. That wouldn't exist. I showed you guys the first watch that I ever built. I'll show you it again. This is the Alpinist inspired. Let me take away that screen because at this point we're just talking about me, and we'll bring up some other official replacements. Right? We have this one, right? This was Alpinist. That was my first one. This is something that I don't see often, right? The tuna case. This was actually built off of a travel watch inspired event in Watch Crunch as well. The tuna, I don't even see it on the website. Am I crazy? I'm on Seiko USA. I don't see any tunas on there. Let me know the deal on that, man. I don't know what the deal is with the tuna watches from Seiko, but I can tell you that I understand the SNJ025 is, but I didn't see too much with maybe I didn't dig deep enough on the website itself. Here's an actual, so people get aggroed. People get mad. It's almost like when I showed this watch, it was like the same aggravation from the the 5KX models that are going to come out and people getting mad, right? They're like, dude, this is basically an Alpinist. Why don't you just buy an actual Alpinist? They have Alpinists for sale still. Yeah, I know that. But here's the deal. I fell in love with the SARB 017. They don't got that no more. They don't got it. They don't got the original, right? And if you want the original one, we're talking about $1,400 hairs, right? I ain't paying that. All right. And to be fair, yes, I am biased. Nomoki supplied this, and when I found out about this build, I was all over it because it's actually like the SARB 017. I don't like the Cyclopses on my watches. I do want a Seiko Turtle, Seiko King Turtle that is going to come with the Cyclops. I might leave that. I might remove it. Let's see how I feel. But I feel that ultimately I went for the deal. But here's the deal. This is an NH35 in here, right? So before we get mad and say, just get the real thing, Seiko made this movement and they blessed Nomoki or whoever they sell the movement to make these things that are so close to the original thing, right? So how could you they're supplying the bootlegger. Nah, they're not bootleggers. They're not bootleggers. They're clomages, right? Don't say bootlegger. Be nice. But they're supplying the movements to make these things happen. So if it's an option, I'm taking it. What do we got saying here? My US edition blue King Turtle is one of my favorite watches. Beautiful tortoiseshell. Yeah. And I was looking at a bunch of King Seikos, bro. And I don't know, man. I wanted a really rare special edition at one point, and then but I don't want to pay the money for it. I'll be quite frank with you. I think I'm at a point now where I think I would appreciate that grenade style Seiko that I showed you before, right? I'd appreciate that. I love the shape. I love the specifications. I'm a sucker for a green dial. I was going to go for something crazy spec, but at the end of the day, for me in my collection, that would be fine. I don't want the black dial. I was thinking about the black dial on that King Seiko with the waffle or grenade, whatever you want to call it. But I don't know. I feel like green is more interesting. I feel like the black is a little boring, if you will. And then that has like a light tan on the second hand. So if I put like a what do you call that? Like a khaki style strap on there, that'll be fantastic, I think. What do we got? Vintage bracelet. Oh, yeah. You're talking about the Spidel. The Spidel. I didn't mention it because I've shown this on the other lives, so I feel like I didn't want to do overkill, but the Spidel stretchy bracelet, man, fantastic. Since we're on the subject, we might as well dive deep on that. Hang on. Let me take off the F91W if I could. So here's the deal. We're talking about, whoa, hold on. Okay. We're talking about what? The 70s when these things were kind of like super popular, or 80s or whatever? No, 70s, 60s, 60s, 70s, whatever. These things were the original, not quick release, on the fly, right? So they go stretch over right over your wrist. Our grandfathers, what they like to do is they like to put it down here, work and do whatever they had to do, and slide it back. Now, a lot of people saw that stretchy material and said, oh, that's going to pull your hair. This does not pull your hair, ladies and gentlemen. I'm telling you right now, look in the Spidel. It has a fantastic bracelet for it. I love the stretchy vintage feel for it. It leans into that vintage aspect, and it doesn't pull your hairs. That's a myth. People lied about that. Just saying. Where we at? We good on chat? All right, cool. So where I want to go now is, hang on. Stop sharing. No. Where I want to go now is I want to give you guys. Okay, so before we do that, the price point is at $500 hairs, $450 for the non-bracelet, right? Problems with that price point, and I want to be fair and I want to cover all angles, is that at that point, now here's why watch nerds have a problem with it. Because if you look at something like this, Zelos, who is clearly a Seiko inspiration, right? We have that price point now that we're reaching the $500 USD for bracelet, but we all know that Zelos is going to be a spec monster, right? These are 300 meters of water resistance. Are they ISO certified? No, but Seiko's ISO certified for 200 meters. Therefore, my guess would be that if you're saying that your watch is 300 meters, then you're probably going to be able to surpass 200 meters without a problem. 300 meters is close to 1,000 at that point feet. 200 meters is 666 feet. So when you talk about now, again, if you're brand new in the watch game, it's going to be very hard for me to sell you on a watch brand like Zelos, because you're going to say, who's Zelos? What are you talking about? I've heard of Seiko, right? So there's always going to be that push-pull. But if you happen to be watching this live, understand that there are web-based brands that are out there that are spec monsters. What are spec monsters? Well, I'll tell you. 529, you're going to get a bracelet, you're going to get quick release, you're going to get on-the-fly adjustment. You don't know what that is? Google it. Slow down before you catch up. 300 meters of water resistance, and it has a sapphire crystal. We have a Miyota movement on it, right? So Miyota movements are more high valued, and we're talking about Miyota 9000 series, yeah. Give you an example. I'll show you the one that I have. This one's $600, so maybe that's not a complete comparison, but the only price difference on this is the meteorite dials. Catch up. I can't slow down. So at that point, with these specifications that I'm going to behold to you now, strap monster at 20 millimeters, Miyota 9015, right? C3 BGW9. Now, I haven't pinned this against an SKX model, original, non-original 5KX, but Zelos is known for their loom. And even on their colored loom, fantastical. So I want to say that it could give Seiko a run for the money. Maybe you're a loom person, maybe you're not, but we're having a conversation in specifications. And if you're new to watch collecting, if you will. So that's the perspective that we're going into. Yes. 316L, C3, BGW9. It has a combination movement, 300 meters of water resistance. That's a thing. Okay. That's a thing. So let's switch back. Oscar with the super chat for that missing Red Bull. But here's the thing. Look how fast I'm going without the Red Bull. Can you imagine? I can. I don't think it would be a good idea for me to introduce Red Bull at this point, Oscar. Just saying. I'm done with the SK. I'm done with Seiko, TMI, NH3X movements. Glad to see the Miyota 9 series used more often. I'm not mad at that all the way. I think that there are I know that there are watch enthusiasts that you may be done with. But however, if we're talking about a Saint Martin, I'm just going to use this as an example. Yes, you're happy because you're a watch nerd just like me. You're a watch wizard. If you're offended by nerd, and you've been oversaturated with the NH series, so therefore you're numb to it. You need something to excite you. That butterfly feeling is gone. It's like you're a drug addict and you need a stronger hit to feel that. You know what I mean? Let's keep it PG-13. That's the reason why you're done with the NH35. I get it. However, Saint Martin is not the only person doing the NH35 for affordability and for Chinese mass-produced watches, which reminds you that brings people in, right? There are people that only have $100 for a mechanical movement. There are people out there for $100, $200. Therefore, the NH35 makes that viable for you to still get something decent without going that far. So I get what you're saying, but I want to introduce perspective, sir. That's all I'm saying. Where are we at? For the San Martins, I'd have a PT 5000. Dude, you're bringing me down the rabbit hole in this live. PT 5000. The only problem with PT 5000 that doesn't have a lot of trust from watch enthusiasts yet. I do agree. We're talking about a high beat movement. It is equivalent to a SW 200 in its high beatness. But you know what the deal is, bro? I'm glad you said that, because I mentioned Zhang Hong, sister company of San Martin. We were just talking about San Martin. Here's what I think needs to happen with Zhang Hong. If you're listening by some stretch of the imagination, somebody needs to come in and take that PT 5000 and reinsure its reliability and make sure to say, like, no. I'm taking this PT 5000 and I'm making sure that it's oiled properly. I'm making sure that the actual parts are well refined. It's going to be better, if not the same, as an SW200, right? We need somebody with a bold claim out there, because here's the deal, bro. There is good manufacturing in China. There's bad, there's bootlegging, there's fakes, there's this, there's that, but there's also very good. And let's be honest, cheap labor. So somebody, and San Martin or Zhang Hong, just saying, somebody's going to come in and they're going to they're going to put some money down, right? Because if you bring a bag of money to China, you can make things happen. That's how it works. I've worked in importing in my day job, so I know how it works. If you have a bag of money and you go to China, you could bring in containers of whatever you want. Somebody's going to bring a big bag of money into China, and PT5000 is going to be a thing, and it's going to compete with the SW200, whatever, Salida. And I think it needs to be Zhenghong. I think that they are big enough, with the backing of San Martin being the main course, to be able to say, no, fear not. We're going to reimagine this movement and we're going to compete. And then they should do that for their Zhenghong line, which is supposed to be a web-based brand, watch enthusiast brand, and supposed to compete with that space and see. 20 Vancouver 29 indeed high beats. That's what it's all about, dude. That's what it's all about. Because Oscar, you're right, bro. There are a lot of high beat movements, and that's what happens to you when you've been doing this for a while. You get numb, and you need something that's going to tickle your fancy. And there are plentiful different options as is, and that's why I went on that rant with the PT5000, if you will. Okay, so let's end off like this. I gave you guys options where to go, if not with the 5KX, which is supposed to be the SKX replacement. It's not. I get it. So where do you go outside of that? I'll tell you. Let's bring it up. We're getting better at it. Islander. You go to Island Watch. Okay? This is where you go. And look at the pricing on this. Here's the deal. Right now, if you go to Seiko, there are Seiko 5KX watches within this price range, but not within this specification. Okay. And let me go back because I think there was a point that I was trying to make on this. So this looks like the 007. Yes. And this looks like the 009. Original wise. This is how Islander had the come up. This is his bread and butter. This is what he did. He said, oh, you're discontinuing the SKX 007, 009? No problem. Here's where I'm going to come in and do the whoop-de-whoop, the New York style. So let's take the 007 replacement, which is the ISL 02, right? And let's take a look at its specifications. And I know you watch nerds know this already. I am sorry, but I want to cater to not only you guys, just in case a new person in watch collecting comes across this content, I want them to be able to relate and connect, especially if they went down that rabbit hole of mechanical. $299. What do you get for $299? I'll tell you. Let's look at the tech specs. Pull that up. Here we go. NH36 movement, day date. So you're still going to get that blue AR coating on the underside. You're getting a bracelet, solid endings. All right. 120 click, of course. Super Luminova C3. We can expect that lume to be plentiful for that Island watch because he knows how important that is. Drilled lugs at the ends. Does the SKX have drilled lugs? I had to low-key look. It doesn't. So I say all that to say this, and I do believe, and I'm pretty sure that it says sapphire right here. So sapphire coating, right? So here's your 007 for $299. 007. Go back. 009 all day long. Is it a little different? It is. The 009 technically is a darker navy blue, but you still have that Pepsi bezel. You still have that blue colorway. You're getting a bracelet. It's on the J-style because Rolex will come for me. J-style bracelet. Now, Rolex just said at the 12 o'clock they were going to do that thing at the 12 o'clock with that little split thing. He's already done that, and he's done the best of both worlds. He didn't go just rectangles and squares. He went circles, rectangles, and the split at the 12 o'clock. Hello. He's on the money and at a great, fantastic price. This is $329. Can't beat that with a stick. I'm going to land this plane, ladies and gentlemen. I'm looking around to see. Oh, by the way, just so you know, I do have a Zelos. So just in case you were wondering, this man doesn't know what he's talking about, not F1. I do have a Zelos in my possession, right? And that is another option if you want to go with an actual diver that's going to have spec'd out. So if you are listening to this live and you're new to watch collecting, why am I yelling? I want to say this, right? Seiko is not a bad option. Even today, even with this new lineup, Seiko is definitely not a bad option. They never will be. Why? Because they have the name, they have the reputation, just know that if you're reading any forums and you're seeing anything that are coming out that are bad, publicity for Seiko, it's because we are nerds. We're deep in the rabbit hole, and specifications is what we got used to when we see different iterations from watch to watch when it comes to web-based brands. What are web-based brands? Watch enthusiast brands, micro brands, independent brands. If you're new, I want you to know what I'm talking about. So we're used to being upgraded per model every single year. Fair? If you're new, that's not you. You're just like, guy, you just rambled on for 2 hours. I just want to know, what watch can I get for $500 that I don't have to worry about falling apart? There's a lot of options. Islander watch, Noctua watch. There's a lot of options. You got to do a little bit of homework. You got to do a little bit of digging. I just went through a whole bunch of things. Even if you tell me, Skylar, I want to stay with Seiko, I gave you an option for the King Turtle. Just saying. So there's a lot of options out there. I hope that helped you out. Just saying. And let me clean up the chat, and then we're going to land this plane because we are past the hour at this point. All right, what are you guys saying? What are you guys saying? Where did I leave off? Hold on. Let me make this screen big because we're gonna land this plane. My pretty face is on screen. Perfect. I've never had this full screen, so this is weird. Tim Cheeseman, Power Reserve. Eric Mack with the. Did I get this one? Eric Mack with the super chat. Very good live. I'm enjoying it. Thank you, bro. I'm just a silly goose. I hope I made some of you laugh. If not, then that's wild. I did a lot. I did a lot for no reason. I hope you guys laugh. I'm a little bit of a silly goose, and I try to introduce different perspectives. I hope you guys can understand. I know I'm talking to a lot of watch wizards, so maybe you're looking at me sideways, but I think that I do make a lot of sense in what I'm saying as a total. Appreciate you, Eric Mack. Does it have any complications? Does it have any implications for accuracy? Are we talking about the 5KX? If we're talking about Seiko, Tim, Seiko don't give a damn about accuracy. Seiko's like, you could get anything from a +1 to 2 seconds a day, all the way up to 5 minutes minus 5 minutes. And you got to be okay with that. Here's the thing, Tim. I've owned a lot of NH35s. I've owned a lot of Seiko movements, I'm like 10 out of 10 for beating the factory specifications. We're usually talking about plus or minus 30 seconds to 40 seconds a day when it comes. I'm just balling it all up together. When it comes to that kind of accuracy, I've never had it at that level. I've never had it at any of those extremes. It's always been ridiculously tight, to what they said it could be. And I'm talking about plus or minus 5 to maybe, I think the worst I've ever had was 12 seconds a day. And here's the deal, Mr. Tim. It's very easy to regulate. You may say to me, oh, Skylar, I'm never going to regulate. Fine. But it's very easy to regulate, even if you want to take it to somebody to have it regulated. So workhorse, going to last you a long time. 10 years is usually when people say you need a service. I've heard people say 15, 20 years before they needed a service on it. And at that point, your service call is you throwing the movement away and putting a new one in. Boop. Just saying. So, think what you will. The late, great Daniels was obsessed with service intervals. Big motivation for his innovation of the coaxial exhibit. Yeah. But relative to this subject, and I just mentioned, I don't think service calls are a thing when it comes to Seiko. I don't think service calls are a thing when it comes to Seiko movements in general. Why? Because they're so damn affordable. Why would you spend the money to have that movement serviced when you can replace it for like $30, $40? You dig what I'm saying? But there are people out there, and that's not the case when it comes to high horology and when it comes to luxury and in-house movements. I get it. That's different. That's the nostalgia. I want to have the same movement that I bought the watch with, and I want to pass it down with that same movement involved. But that's not the topic of discussion for today. When it comes to relatively to Seiko, it's just a replacement at that point, in my eyes. And if you play with watch modding, tying things from the beginning of the video, this was my first watch that I put together. Very, very easy. I have videos on that. If you guys want to learn how to do that for yourself, you could do the service yourself. So you can go on AliExpress, Alibaba, you can go on Amazon, wherever you want to go. The most you'll probably pay for an NH movement is 50, 60 bucks. The most. You should pay $25 to $30. By the time you watch this in the future, when you need it, you're probably going to pay $100. Here's the point. You can have that service call and you could probably do it yourself and have a nice day. Just saying. Faster rate means balance recover quickly options. However, a large balance may have more momentum. I agree. Tim, yes, I can see your servicing be faster given cost and time required, especially for expensive pieces. Yeah, man, that's the thing, man. It's like buying a sports car, yeah? It's like, I want a BMW, I want a BMW, I want a BMW. Okay. And then when your oil changes like $200, you're like, no. Yeah. That comes with it. Just saying. Truvon, I'm gonna catch up on chat and then I'm gonna fly this plane. I'm gonna land this. Sheesh, I gotta get off live. I'm glad you young people are getting back into mechanical engineering. How old are you, Richard? That you're saying you're young people? Like, I'm 36, bro. I'm not that young. But then at the end of the day, it depends on where you're sitting, Richard. I'm just entering. I want to say my wisdom years started maybe 3 years back when I actually started tasting what wisdom tasted like. I was like, oh, okay, I've made these mistakes about 15 times. Now I finally learned how to do this. You know what I mean? So it depends on how old you are. But yes, I love the fact that we are all getting motivated for mechanical watches. It's a thing. It's never going to die out. I don't think. I think mechanical watches are going very strong. And I'll tell you what, I'm starting to appreciate quartz watches again, more so. I think you become, I'm not going to say snob, because I would never like on somebody who has a quartz watch, but I was heavily focused on mechanical watches once I figured out like how magical they are, right? I'm starting to lean back into quartz watch, mecha quartz, if you will, especially the hybrid stuff. I can see a Grand Seiko in my future if I'm headed down that path anyway. But definitely appreciate mechanical watches all the way, Richard. Just saying. I don't know if I can catch up on chat at this rate. I think Seiko has done more than bring people into watches appreciation and other. Tim, thank you so much for saying that. I think that you're absolutely right. I think I stressed that point, but I think that it's more than that. In fact, I know this to be true because there was actual collaboration watches that I found out about, and they were leaning more towards an enthusiast kind of theme on those collaborations, if you will. And there are so many Seikos that were actually limited, right? Like, and if you're watching Random Rob's massive sale, he's got watches that have Seikos that were only produced in 500 batches, 1,200 batches, 1,000 batches. And there also are collaborations out there for Seiko as well. So I definitely think that there is more of appreciation that we have to have for it. And they definitely bring people into watches, man. I have so much respect for them at the end of the day. That's how I'm going to leave off for sure. I will say my first mechanical watch had an NH35, and then I got hooked. That's where we have to give Seiko their flowers. Exactly. Because here's the thing. When you first learn about mechanical watches, technically, don't cancel me for saying this. Technically, a mechanical watch is like a VHS. Yes? It's dead technology. We got Netflix. We got Hulu. We got HBO. You know what I mean? But mechanical watches are magical, to say the least. And before you're ready to spend 1,000 doll hairs, you're like, okay, cool. This San Martin costs $300. Everybody's saying it has fantastic finishing and whatnot. Or maybe you do a Pagani design. This is a modded Pagani design. I didn't show you guys this yet. It's on my Zero Pass strap from the Anachronist shop. This was a Pagani design that I changed the dial in very, very early on in my collecting career, right? I figured out that I can modify. I love this. I just have them at my disposal. I figured out that I can modify watches, and then I said, you know what? I want to change the Pagani design. And I have a video coming out about this, by the way, 3 years on the wrist. And I just wanted to change the dial in the hands. I was so tired of the Mercedes hands that was copied by Clomages. I love Clomages, but I was so fatigued. My point is this. There's an NH35 in that watch, right? So for sure, there is something to say about getting something that, and this was like 100 and change when I purchased this watch. And if you like that Folex, no, I'm just kidding. If you like that Clomage Rolex type of look, which I did, I'm not gonna drop 10 G's right now. Then that's a good option to have, and especially as something as your first mechanical watch with an NH35. It's something. It's the same thing from any cheap movements. They got replaced, no service, because it's exactly. It makes more sense just to. As much as I would love to have an NH35 service to keep it with me for the nostalgia of this was the actual. It's not decorated. There's no blued screws. There's no decorated rotor. There's no decorated bridge. There's no There's no not Persage. You guys know what I'm talking about. There's no, it's if you ever seen an NH35, you guys all have at this point, you watch Wizards, it's just metal. It's raw metal. That movement has nothing to it other than you being impressed by seeing your first mechanical watch. But just replace it at the end of the day is what happens. No service. No. Are good for learning. Yes. Definitely good for learning. Thank you so much. Before I signed off, I'm so glad this is why I love doing this. If you've not handled the mechanical watch, there is such a thing where you have to change the day/date at a certain time. You have to get a feel for winding it. You can't overwind it if you have an automatic watch. However, you still have to get a feel for changing the date at the right time, especially on NH35, because versus the Swiss SW200, you have more plastic than you have metal versus. So you have to get used to changing that day and date at the right time. You have to get used to winding it. You can't overwind it. However, oh man, how nerdy do we want to get right now? So an automatic watch has a slip for the barrel to prevent you from overwinding. However, I've talked to a couple of watchmakers. They said still, even with the slip, you don't want to keep going on forever winding the watch because it still could be detrimental. End scene. You're 65, Richard. So yeah, you have the right to say what you said. Respect. I can learn a lot from you. Just saying. My collection is 2/3 quartz, and I'm having it. Yeah, dude, I just did a live at the Brew. He did a lot of quartz. He just came out with mechanical, but Mecha Quartz, I've fallen in love with the hybrid quartz and mechanical. If you guys know already the hybrid of it. I'm not going to get into it, but don't want to maintain a bunch of them. Maintain a bunch of what? Maintain a bunch of quartz? Wait, hold on. My collection is 2/3 quartz. So I'm having a few. Okay, you don't want to maintain the mechanicals. I understand that. I respect that. Yes, I agree. The quartz is due for insurance, especially because there's also times aside from the tariffs that remain in place, Tim. Sometimes you just want to run and gun. Sometimes you just want to go. Sometimes you don't want to set something. Sometimes you want to interact with that keyless works and that crown and everything else. And sometimes you just want to and hit the door, especially in New York. Hello. The cheapest, the chat is never gonna end. We're never gonna fly this plane. The cheapest quartz watch is one on the higher side of auto accuracy, so you get the cheapest Casio to the higher auto. Exactly. Yeah, for sure. That's a thing, and that's what I meant by Seiko putting the entire Swiss to their knees. Right? You can take the highest caliber chronometer certified in 20 positions and test it. It doesn't matter. You take the cheapest quartz and it comes so close. Maybe the mechanical, they made the most accurate mechanical watch and the worst quartz watch. The quartz watch is off by some margin, but relatively speaking. And then when you take the most accurate quartz watch and the most accurate mechanical watch, Not even close. Not even close. Erebus will be making a digital coming soon. That's crazy, Tim. They already kicked things off with their quartz watch, which I think was phenomenal. There was a lot to be said about Erebus, mainly because of the brand needing its identity. But I'll tell you something. When it came to specifications off rip out of the gate, their divers were a little generic. But when it came to their Gata watches, I didn't get it, man. I get that it needs brand identity, but I'm like, bro, it's their first and second, third, whatever. It's their second year. I think they were around 2 years. You want them to have brand identity? Calm down. Respectfully, calm down. Let them get their legs. They hit every point in specifications off rip, which is to be expected because Jody is a watch reviewer that only goes through specifications 1,000 times a year. They did phenomenal. I love the Erebus that I have. It is a Venturine. It is part of my watch, my wife's watch collection. Yes, I do agree that they need their own identity still, and they will get there. They've came out with a quartz. They came out with different sizes that no other web-based brand has come out with thus far. So they're making strides. Watch out for Erebus. I told you guys about Venetianico, and now they have an in-house movement. I think that you can bet your money on me, and I'm pretty on par. Not to get cocky, but I listen to the community. I have my ear to the ground. I have my finger on the pulse. I'm dead accurate. Just saying. Yeah, just saying. Erebus is fantastic. Shout out to Jody. I just put that up screen. Hold on. The other about the PT5000, by the way, is that fella can swap out and later in. I didn't know that a PT5000 and SW200-1, the -1 is important because the normal SW200 had malfunctions in the date. I try to drop gems every now and again. I didn't know that those are interchangeable. Is that what you're saying? Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. That's fantastic to know. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. Oscar seconds that. I will automatically. I wind automatics only minimally, just enough to start it up, and then let the automatic module do its thing. Exactly. That's a smart move, bro. And here's the deal. I'll take it even further, bro. Not that I don't want to end this live, but I don't. I'll take it even further than that. And Travis has made comments about this. I don't like long power reserves. Now, that may not be for you. You may want a 187-hour power reserve. Personally, for me, I want less of a power reserve. Why do I say that? Because I have watches. I have a watch collection that is substantial enough where I'm not going to get to that watch very quickly. And what that means is if that watch is ticking for another 4 or 5 days, it's ticking for 4 or 5 days, not on my wrist. Now, I've already warmed the watch up. What do I mean by warm the watch up? It means that it's not okay to keep a watch in a drawer and you're going to preserve it. That's not how it works. The oils have to be rotated. There are jewels that slowly release oils that are within the watch. Therefore, while it's running, it evenly disperses and it slowly comes down, keeping friction, even though you're saying to yourself, Skylar, the parts on a watch are tiny. What friction are you talking about? Micro friction. It matters. It's relative. So therefore, the oils keep from friction and keep from you having to replace those parts. Stay with me. Slow down before you catch up. So therefore, if you have the watch running 3 or 4 days and it's not on your wrist, there's technically a wear and tear to that watch, so long as you're healthily, that's a word, rotating your watches on a regular basis. I get to my watches about every 2 months. And for me, that keeps things exciting. That's what makes me happy. Do I need that many watches? No, but that's how I like to enjoy watch collecting. You do you. Here's the deal. Every 2 months, winding a mechanical watch is healthy. Talk to a watchmaker. You don't have to take my word for it. It keeps the actual, what am I trying to say here? Oils dispersed and healthy enough for the watch. Okay. So therefore, I don't like extended power reserves because it's like running your car in your home doing a live. Why? End scene. Where are we at? I think we're almost at the end now. No, we're not. This live is going to be forever. Ladies and gentlemen, I have to I have to eventually end this. Where are we? Let me catch up real quick. I was up to that. See more HHQ options in titanium, especially. Fact though, bro, I appreciate how active you've been in this live so far. Sertina has some interesting. Yes, I do agree. Titanium. I have to get into titanium a little bit more. Do I even have any titanium watches? Vandorio sent me a titanium. I sent that on to another watch creator. I need like a fan. Maybe it'll be my first Christopher Ward down the line in titanium. Who knows? And they got it certified, so they say chronometer on the dial, so it's kind of cool. Fact. Yep, the SW200 and the PT are both strong. I didn't know that. That's why I love doing these things. Yes, it is based off the ETA 2824. Correct. You are right. And affect the actually because it needs more affiliate. Ladies and gentlemen, we're gonna land this plane officially. The plane is landed. This was a lot of fun. This was very long. Woo! We were on here for a while. This was a lot of fun, and I hope that this settles. I hope this gave you some perspective into the whole Seiko debacle. You're gonna still feel the way you feel. You're still gonna leave me comments about how you feel and if you disagree, and I respect that because all comments are welcome. All perspectives are welcome. That's how we grow. That's how we learn. That's how we get better. I appreciate everybody who joined this live and on the comment section, and I appreciate you guys who are going to play this on the playback. At the end of the day, you could be anywhere else, and you're spending your most valuable resource. So, with that being said, and I already kind of said it, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I appreciate you guys for spending your most valuable asset, which is time, and I'll hopefully see you guys in the next one. Have a great Memorial weekend, and I'll see you guys next week. Peace.